Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to make basically a tile for the wall here on the inside. And I'm going to do two different parts. The first part is basically we are going to do a metal wall, and as you can see already, I started a rug texture, and I'll show you how I did that in a second here. And so basically we're going to go into Cintiq here. Now, this is going to be really simple. All I'm going to do is fill it with my general color here. I'm going to turn this into a background, and I'm going to save myself a lot of time and effort here with some effects. And I don't recommend a lot of effects on here, but I'm going to have a tileable texture. So the first thing is Bevel Emboss. I'm going to simply do an inner bevel. And we are going to do, let's change that to black, multiply, and like that. So that is kind of the first thing to do here. And actually, we're just going to say reset to default here real quick here. So I'm going to do a chisel hard, something like that, and there we go. So something really simple, really easy. That's the first part of it. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to just lower the screen and lower the opacity just so it's not like so noticeable. The next thing I'm going to do is, you know what, I think that's good for now. Let's see if I can do a color pattern overlay once. And with the pattern overlay, I'm just going to do something like this. I'm going to lower the opacity just a little bit. You know what, I don't like that, so I'm going to just keep it simple for you guys. So next thing is I'm going to create a new layer, and here, and so basically I'm just going to kind of put in these big rivets here, and I'm going to do it with a simple brush. I'm going to do hard round, pretty big, not quite that big, and I'm just going to paste. And now you can't see it because of the way this is all being done, but we're just going to go in Bevel and Emboss again, and this time I'm going to do a soft smooth. I'm going to do a inner bevel, going to do something like that, and then I think that's good. And I'm going to actually clone this, and I'm going to go into the bevel and emboss on this one here, and I'm going to go into an outer bevel, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to reduce the depth on it, and I think the size looks okay. So, and then I'm going to just drag this underneath it. So there I've got my two effects. I'm going to grab these two, and I'm going to try and merge it down, and it'll save everything that I needed. And then all I'm going to do is grab this and Control and Alt, and we're going to shift it over like so, and rough it in there. One more. There we go. And so there is my tile. That's all I'm going to have for a tile. I'm not going to make this hard, so I'm going to save this. and we're going to call it a tile, PSD. Now, there's my rug, and all I did with the rug is kind of the same thing, except what I did, and I'll just do something really simple here. Created a new layer like so. I just simply took and made a defining pattern, so I'm just going to go back to, I think it was this one here, and made it just a defining pattern, something simple like this, like so. Clean it up with a little eraser. Like that. Duplicate like this. Select transform. Move my little dot over here. Flip horizontal. Done. Then I'm going to basically double click and merge the layer. And then all I'm going to do is, with my brush here, I'm just going to make a little dot like so. Nothing fancy. I'm going to copy, select, transform. Again, move my dot, flip vertical, and in this case, I'm just going to make sure it's kind of centered like so. Merge the layer, select, transform, rotate clockwise, and merge the layer. And then all I'm going to do is kind of just center this so it looks good. And actually, I like just going to 45 it so it's not so everything else. And there we go. And then that's basically it. I merge that layer, and I'm going to save this rug off, and file, save as, save the rug. And if you get an error like this, sometimes it's because Max is using it and it just doesn't like it. So what I do is I just go save as, and we'll save it as a JPEG or whatever, like so, and then I'll replace it because I was using it already. And then that's it. You know, that's all we're doing for this particular thing. And then in 3ds Max, what we're going to do, and I'll show you guys real quick here. So in 3ds Max, I'm going to take this rug. I'm going to open up my materials here. And it would actually help if you saw my monitor. Okay, so I've got my rug here, and I already applied it as a texture, but I'm just going to apply the rug texture. And so you can see it's stretched. And this is why I didn't really get into the UV mapping versus unwrapping. UV mapping is usually done wrong by students. Like, they expect it to do everything, and it won't. Like, it won't do this couch because the couch is such complex geometry. But what it will do is allow you to put something on there. And I'm going to just do planar, and I'm going to go bitmap fit here. I'm going to choose my rug, and so you can see how now I have this nice stylish rug going on. All right, and that's what this will do. You know, this will basically apply geometry in some form like this, and it'll do it at its best for you know, that type of information. And so we're going to do that to this one here. So I'm going to grab this outer hull here, and you can see it's got an unwrap on there. And if I look at my unwrap, you know, I've got it broken down into my different sections here, and so on and so forth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do two things with this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it like this. And the first thing that I'm going to do is it's a symmetry modifier. I'm going to collapse this. I'm going to say collapse all, say yes. Turns it into an editable poly. And then what I'm going to do on my edit poly here is I'm just going to select the interior here. All right. Now with this selected as an interior here, I'm going to do two things. The first thing I'm going to do is let's try applying a material to it. So I'm going to just go here, create this, create a wall tile, and I'm going to basically go into diffuse, bitmap, and you know what? I'm going to save this off as a PNG, and you can't see it, but it's, or not a PNG. I'm going to just save it off as a JPEG, say OK, and there it is. That's all I'm doing. So I'm going to pick this tile, right? And going to show said tile, and I'm going to apply said tile. Now, as you can see, it's not really doing what I want because it's a symmetrical modifier here. And so what I'm going to do with it is there's a couple different ways we can do this. Now, I put this tile up here, and it works really well on this section here. All right. But what it doesn't work well on is it's nice and clean layout, but the problem is I'm not going to use a UV on there because it's already got that unwrap in there. And what I'm going to do, because it saves the unwrap, just so you know, if I put an unwrap, it's the same thing as it was when I did it originally. What I'm going to do is do an unwrap here, or tile here. So I'm going to just go, let's do 25 by 25. And when we look at it now, wow, that looks nice. And yeah, it's screwed up because of, if you look here, it's got a light source like this. And then as you go underneath, that light source doesn't change. So it kind of, when I flip it over, it looks kind of upside down. But since I'm only doing it on one section here, and my camera is only going to be one way too, so that basically solved that issue. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to jump you over to my Cintiq real quick. All I'm going to do here is go in and create let's do a saturation layer. And I'm going to change a different color. I'm going to add in, I'm going to, one, say colorize. Two, I'm going to add in kind of a blue. Let's lighten that up a little bit. Say OK. And then I'm going to just save this off. Control Shift S. And I'm going to save this off as tile 2. And it's going to be a JPEG. And I'm going to say OK. Now going back to my main monitor here, I'm going to pick another color. And we can do multi-sub object, but you're learning, so I'm not going to sit there and do that. We're just going to pick this bitmap here, and here's our tile 2. And then what we're going to do is simply go into here, select this, edit, invert selection, Control I, and then I'm going to actually show this material, and I'll apply this material. And that's going to get rid of my information there. Now, when we look at it, it's going to be kind of screwed up because of the simple fact that, all right, so here what I've done is I've done the same thing. I tiled it 25 by 25, and as you look, what it did was it overlapped it and wrapped it a little bit, and it's going to give it a little bit of a bend here, but for my purposes, I think it'll work fine. I'm not too worried about it, because, and the reason I'm not too worried about it is because of the way things are set up. But so that just applied 2 materials to one object, and what I can do is I can, probably go in and play with the UVs a little bit. I'm not worried about it. The UVs are nice because they're matching up with this, so I've got what I need. for what I'm doing, this is fine because this is going to be moving. And so all is said and done. And with that being said, you know, I've got the majority of this done. The only thing I'm going to texture is I think, or I'll texture this cab here, and I think we're going to do that in a special way. And what else do I got here? The next thing I got to texture is this here, and honestly, this can be pretty well done pretty easily through one video. But I've got the majority of everything in there, and from there we will start working on the next section. Hey, I wanted to thank everyone for subscribing to my Patreon, and if you haven't yet, check it out.